Hey, hi! Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner. I'm a critic, consultant, and programmer based in Toronto, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Seth Worley, a writer, director, and visual effects artist who made his feature debut at TIFF last year with Sketch, an adventure comedy starring Tony Hale as a widowed dad trying to help his kids over their mother's death, and also stop the rampaging monsters that have sprung to life from his daughter's sketchbook. It opens in theaters across the US and Canada tomorrow, Wednesday, August 6th, and I honestly think it's one of the year's best movies. And it's especially wonderful with a crowd. Don't miss out. Seth picked Men in Black, Barry Sonnenfeld's deadpan sci-fi comedy starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones as super-secret government agents tasked with keeping the planet safe from alien threats, the latest of which turns out to be a rampaging insect creature that's running around New York City wearing the skin of a dirt farmer played by Vincent D'Onofrio. The biggest hit of 1997, because Titanic made most of its money in 1998, Men in Black dazzled audiences, delighted critics, and spawned 3 sequels, some of which even come close to recapturing the fizz of Ed Solomon's script and Smith and Jones' incredible initial chemistry. But the first one is the best one, by several light years. I know it, you know it, and so does Seth. This is Someone Else's Movie.
There's just so many movies you could pick for this, right? Like, it's kind of like, at TIFF, I got to do... It's kind of it was a last minute thing, and it was something I begged for because they happened upon us. But I got to do my letterboxed like top 4 or whatever, and I made such a big deal about how I'm gonna do. Like the problem is my top 4 are all like Spielberg related movies, whether they're Spielberg or Zemeckis, right? But they're all Spielberg produced at least, and that just feels lame. Like it's true, but it's lame. And so like I try to sneak one weird one in there always. And by weird, I mean just like one that's just a guilty pleasure. And it used to be Twister, and I'm now just hat on a hat going down rabbit holes of stories. I'll tell my Twister story sometime, but Sneakers is the new one that I'll put in there because I love Sneakers. I could watch that movie over and over and over. It's just the perfect hangout vibe movie for me. And I made such a big deal about saying it leading up to them actually hitting record for the Letterboxd top 4, and they hit record, and I say my top 4, and I left Sneakers out completely and just said all 4 like Spielberg movies. And they looked at me like he looked so confused. Like it was like, you made such a big deal about Sneakers and he didn't say it. All that to say, why did I pick this movie? Because the first 4 are all super obvious, right? Like the ones that I could really talk about for like days, that I know more about than I have any business knowing about, that I've studied like crazy. Those are all like, Jurassic Park, the E.T., the Back to the Future is the what am I leaving out? In like Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a big one for me. But I think it's more fun to talk about the ones that come after that. After those top 4, after those top 5, then you have ones that are, for me, the ones that I either haven't studied as intensely as the other ones, the ones that may not have as much documentation and like behind the scenes stuff out there to like, because like the Spielberg ones have like entire books devoted to them. Sure. And but when you get after it, it's like then we're getting into the realm of movies that were wildly influential for me, but I don't get to talk about them as much. And Men in Black is a huge one for me. I think it was 97 was when that came out. Yeah. So that would have been there was a summer for me between 7th and 8th grade. So I was in middle school. I was a total nerd. I knew by that point I wanted to make movies for the rest of my life. And I also knew by that point that I wanted all those movies to have either aliens or, some high concept thing in them. What Men in Black did, looking back, I've talked a lot on other podcasts and stuff about how like people my age grew up on like Back to the Future and Ghostbusters, and we didn't know those movies were comedies. We thought, because we saw them as kids, right, and we thought, oh, this is a time travel adventure movie, or this is a a ghost movie. And it wasn't until we got to be older that we were like, oh, these are absolutely comedies like first, but it trained our brains to like take genre really seriously and like and hold it in high regard and revere it. And Men in Black was I think one of the first times where I went to something because of the genre that was on the poster, and left like in love with it because it was a comedy. It ended up being like comedy ended up being the engine of the not the car, but the engine of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And that has now become how I talk about my own work and my own projects and my own career to like in general meetings when people, want to know what projects are you looking to make? What are you working on? And tell us about yourself and your sensibilities. And thing I always like to say is I don't like comedy to be on the poster. But comedy is like a really significant part of my voice, at the very least as a writer, but definitely as a writer and director. And so I like to say that I like another genre to be on the poster, and then I like to then win the audience's loyalty and affection with comedy, and then make them ugly cry by the end of the movie. Essentially, so you have like genre, humor, and heart, and this movie this movie doesn't make me ugly cry in any way, but it absolutely I'm so fascinated. It I remember it coming out, and I feel like forgive me, I feel like I don't want to just talk the entire time of this podcast, but I really could about this movie.
That's literally what you're here for, so feel free.
Oh, great. So I remember when it came out, there was backlash, at least amongst middle schoolers, that it was a comedy and that was perceived to be a lame thing. I think it was because it was not expected. We had just had Independence Day, I think, like the summer before or something.
The Will Smith box office monster that gave
so
him that
we're
weekend.
Going to see another Will Smith alien movie, right? And we expect it to be, we don't expect it to be like comedy first, which is kind of what I actually wouldn't call it comedy first, and that's why I love it so much. But it felt overwhelmingly not as self-serious as we may have expected. But that's the thing that blew me away about it, and like in hindsight, like I said, significantly influenced my like taste and sensibilities, was the fact that it was like I went in there expecting a really cool alien movie, and then like it wasn't just that it was funny, it was that it was really funny to all the adults in the room. And in 7th grade, you're still learning what's funny, and you're still like not understanding half the jokes in most grown up like movies you go to see that are comedies, but you laugh along and pretend, and that's how you learn what's funny. And I just remember there's a beat where he, Tommy Lee Jones is first coming in and talking to Will Smith, and he says, what all did he say? And he said the world's going to end. And Tommy Lee Jones says, did he say when? And then there's just a long ass pause of him just deadpan, not selling any comedy, no joke about it, fully serious, and Will Smith just staring at him. And I distinctly remember there being a huge laugh in the room, and me being like, this is something different. This is something interesting and special, and I want to do this. That's my very long answer for why I picked Men in Black.
It's a good answer. It is remarkable. We were talking before we started recording that this is I think as far as I know, this is the one time somebody picks a big movie and both the writer and director have done this podcast, which is so weird. Crazy. Like you stay, so cool. You stay on long enough, 10 years in, I'm going to have everybody eventually, I expect. But yeah, Ed and Sonnenfeld both have done the show. Ed picked Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Sonnenfeld picked Altman's Long Goodbye for people who are looking for them. I'm sure I'll link to them in the Blue Sky account and everything else.
Pick classic movies, and I'm like, I want to do Men in Black.
But Men in Black is now a classic, right? Like that's where we are. It was 28 years ago, which is
I don't like to hear that.
I know, unthinkable to me. I was almost 30 when I saw it on first release, and I
don't believe that, Norm. Sorry, you're apparently. So we've now learned that Norm is ageless. That's what
I have a very young voice. I am absolutely not ageless.
Paul Rudd and I made a deal in 1995 on the Clueless junket that I would take it for both of us. Because I actually just watched Clueless again, and Kate had never seen it. It's like, he looks 40. He looks the same.
Oh, it's nuts. He looks like Los Angeles looks in Terminator 2. It's like, oh, this is exactly the same as it is now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's actually a really good observation. But it is unique, I think, even amongst the Men in Black movies. It sets such a high bar that none of the sequels has been able to clear. Although they come like two is just, it's incredible. It took 5 years to make that movie because it's just, there's nothing to it. But 3 and 4 both have their charms, but they are also rooted in acknowledging. Yeah, three comes up with the same, like, you can put Josh Brolin in as a deadpan Tommy Lee Jones, and it's great. All they had to do is give him fake earlobes.
Absolutely. And then and that actually does have a surprise ugly cry toward the end. Like, it actually a very sweet, endearing character turn that you don't expect, that I remember being really blown away by. And it has really cool, 60s space race imagery throughout it. It's great. I mean, the production design, I can talk about the production design of these movies for 5 hours. But yeah, I cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, we will get there. But yeah, the charm of 3 and 4 to me is that they are both so rooted in the original, and that they can't top it, and they know that, so they don't even try.
Yeah,
because what this is ultimately, it's lightning in a bottle. Like, it's a million different pre-production decisions. I have heard stories that are just, some of them are just as simple as Sonnenfeld was directing Get Shorty, so he couldn't do it when they wanted to shoot, because this was supposed to have been made before Independence Day. And had it not drafted on that, I don't think it would have registered as well, because Smith wasn't as big a box office star, and people would have wondered, right, like, what the chemistry would be like. But once Independence Day minted him, he can go toe-to-toe with Tommy Lee Jones on a poster, and everybody's like, oh, I want to see that.
You're so right, because I was rewatching it last night, because I watch it every night. That's just part of my nighttime routine. No, I was rewatching it last night, and it hit me like around the time that Tommy Lee Jones gets eaten by Edgar. I was like, how does this movie exist? Like, this is a weird ass movie. I miss when this movie could get made. I miss that time when this movie could be a big summer movie. It's such an age-old thing to say about like original IP, yada yada, but like a big weird alien movie that's a comedy starring Tommy Lee Jones, and multiple aliens explode, and like it's so weird. And you're absolutely right. Like, without Independence Day, I don't know if it's as successful, because people don't. Independence Day gives people that anchor to be able to, like, okay, I've got my safety, like, tether to go right into with this. It's Will Smith and aliens. I've seen this before, and I know what I'm going to get. And you get a little more adventurous with it, for sure.
Right. The tone is so much easier to sell, I think, once you see what kind of relationship the film will have with both of its stars. But the other thing that amazes me is that I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. The story, like, Sonnenfeld tells the story about first day of shooting and getting ready. He picked up Jones at his trailer, and they're walking to set. And I don't even know what the set was going to be, what the shoot was, but he was saying, he's bigging him up. He's like, come on, Tom, this is going to be great, right? We're going to have a great time, aren't we? And Jones said something to the effect of, I don't know, I think it could use some work. And Sonnenfeld said he experienced this massive crisis of conscience and put the film on pause for a little while. And I can find no evidence of this anywhere, but he has told this story. And it is entirely possible that they shut it down to retool the script for a couple of weeks, because Jones just didn't want to say that much dialogue, which is why Kay is such a stone face.
I had heard the story. I think Ed Solomon told it on Twitter about him meeting with Tommy Lee Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones saying, you got to decide, is it a comedy or is it sci-fi? It can't be both. And I'm like, well, I don't know how that meeting went, but we know how the movie went. But clearly Jones was wrong. But I love this idea that, like, this Tommy Lee Jones grumpiness, they just like lean into it and use it for the sake of the movie. And then, jokes on him. Now it's successful, and he's got to do it, 3 more times. I love the fact that it was, by the way, the idea of putting an entire feature film on pause, like, I guess you're Sonnenfeld at that point. You know how to do it without a guilty conscience, but that is so stressful and mind-boggling to think about being like, you know what? Let's not go spend these millions of dollars today. I guess that's the way to think about it, but still feels like let's throw today's money down the drain real quick and let's refigure this out. It's smart. I'm glad they did it, but I haven't developed that courage yet to be able to do something like that.
Oh, I would just crawl into the nearest manhole and not come out.
Oh, I would just be like, no, you're wrong. Oh, it's gonna be great. And I talk him into it, and then I talk myself into it. I talk all of us into it, and then we'd be screwed in post.
I mean, the only other comparable moment is I'm thinking like Harrison Ford famously telling George Lucas, you can write this shit, but you can't say it. And then it's like, well, say it anyway. And that was how they did it.
Still made them say it.
Yeah. And it worked fine for Star Wars. But no, Men in Black was in constant contortion throughout. They were going to shoot, the stuff that I could verify, they were going to shoot a big chase scene, the opening chase scene at Lincoln Center, but then they switched it to the Guggenheim because the New York Philharmonic wanted to charge them, and it was already too expensive. Yeah,
I figured the Guggenheim was just like it's the Guggenheim, and it looks like the Guggenheim. Like,
yeah,
right?
It's such a great location, and what you were saying about the '60s production design in 3, the '97 New York stuff just looks. I mean, obviously, it all gets us back to the World's Fair and that giant globe in Queens, but it looks retro and modern at the same breath in a way that 100%. I don't know any other movie that's pulled that off, at least not a straight film that sort of like there are movies where people dress in a certain stylized way and all of that. But the idea that the Men in Black are supposed to disappear into everything, but they're so square looking that they can't help but stand out for us.
They're so hyper stylized. They're supposed to blend in, but they are wildly hyper stylized. And I think part of it is the fact that they're like, look, you put guys in black suits and sunglasses, no matter how ill-fitting this, you could, no matter what you do to the suits, if it's black suits and black sunglasses, they're going to look some degree of cool, no matter what.
Yep.
And they're also going to look some degree of nondescript. Like they'll look cool. They'll stand out because they're guys in suits and sunglasses, but at the same time, they're wearing black and white. Like they are still like by definition nondescript and like not standing out, right? And they take this beautiful Bo Welch production design and they hide it all behind this slab, this like brutalistic, utility looking building. And that's the only way they get away with it. But it's so funny to me, the idea of like having a boring government building and then a really interesting government building inside of it, which is the most unrealistic thing probably about the whole movie. But you're totally right. It's so funny and ironic that they're by definition supposed to be these, hidden in plain sight agency. And yet they're so hyper stylized in their weapons and all that stuff. And we buy it because it fits that pulpy tone of the movie. That's what I love about the movie so much is it all feels like it feels illustrated and in like, it feels like a pulp, like sci-fi comic in the limited like color palette and oh man, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
all of my observations are going to end with me giving up and saying it's so good.
That's fine. Enthusiasm is an absolute way to appreciate something, and it is so, in addition to literally everything else, it has a script that is, I would argue, like the smartest studio commercial blockbuster picture script of that decade, maybe of the previous. Well, no, because Back to the Future and Roger Rabbit are both brilliant, and there's a bunch from the 80s that sort of laid out the formula, as you were saying, for the kind of movies that would get made a decade later. But there is nothing that it comes close to Men in Black. I mean, I got to tell Ed this on his episode. Is like there is no smarter line of dialogue or more relevant line of dialogue than Kay's little speech about a person and smart, people.
But people, 100%.
There is nothing else like that. And it's so astute and so funny. And then everybody comes out of it quoting the White Album joke, which is also good, right?
Yeah,
to get two of those in a movie. My favorite, though, is, and in terms of just pure comedy, I always fall back on You'll Adjust to the Clock or Have a Psychotic Episode, which is the thing you need Rip Torn to say in a movie like this.
Rip Torn is like both perfectly utilized and completely underutilized in this movie at the same time, because you can never fully utilize Rip Torn.
Yeah,
I feel. And he gets so many great lines. I love the humanoid, you wish, bring a sponge, and that's a quick throwaway. what was the other one? I think I wrote it down. I No, I totally agree. Oh, well, it's Tommy Lee Jones's line, but the Meet the Twins, Mugiga and Bob, which is like, I'm a sucker for. I mean, it's in my movie for naming things all these complicated names, and then giving one thing a boring human name is
Yeah.
always funny to me.
It's a good bit. And yeah, again, like cast to cast to cast, I don't know that there's a better, maybe in terms of casting people to type, Jurassic Park comes close because everybody in it is who you need them to look like and act like. And it's just like, it's perfect casting and you really don't even need character names for some of that. The Jeff Goldblum performance, like the Sam Neill hero performance, the Laura Dern empathy performance,
they're all the
like the perfect versions of themselves.
Epitome.
But this, like, they wanted other people, which is so, like, they wanted Eastwood and Chris O'Donnell originally.
Oh, it would have been so weird. I remember reading that as a kid because of course, if I see something I love, I dive as headfirst into it and hard into it as I possibly can. And I seeked out the comic and issues of the comic and was like, oh, this is very straight. Like I figured out pretty quickly, like the comic was not, did not have that comedy tone, which again shows the brilliance of, I have to imagine it was, Ed Solomon and Barry Sonnenfeld, either or, who made the decision to lean it comedic. But like, I remember, it was Eastwood and Chris O'Donnell. There was also, I think, Jay Moore was one that was maybe thrown out at one point. Who else was there?
David Schwimmer turned it down.
Okay, here's the thing about David Schwimmer. I just rewatched Friends with my daughter, and I think Schwimmer is like a genius. I think he has the most thankless role in that show. He plays an often incredibly unlikable character. He is so in control of the ship on it, though, in such an impressive way. I would have. There's a version of Men in Black that's not as successful commercially, but I think is interesting in its own way with Schwimmer in it.
I would like to have seen it, right? Like, I think he could have, especially opposite Jones, they could have been a really good pairing.
Yeah.
But then you see somebody with Smith's charisma, and there's no question, like, he's perfect for this.
It's just like charisma incarnate is what he is in this movie. It's just like none of it feels like, okay, hire the comedian and be funny action. Like, because that is a thing that always pulls me out of, especially a movie like this where, like, I feel like, Edgar Wright has like perfected this of like, let's make a genre movie that everyone will say is a comedy, like that is essentially a comedy, but we're going to all pretend that we're making a genre movie. We're going to write a comedy and then we're going to make a genre movie. And like, when you prioritize comedy over anything else, it like, and you do it, that neuters it like weakens it immediately. And I that happens, in my opinion, whenever you like do the all right, be funny action thing where you're just like, yeah, just vamp. And except when it's someone like, when it's someone like Will Smith, who I'm not saying, I don't know how much was scripted and how much was Will, but the energy there is so much that you have to assume that there's some ad lib going on there and it's all like pitch perfect. I think hire a decorator. Go down to where he's, hire a decorator coming here because damn, but the part right before it where he's like, going on to Macy, get yourself some dresses. When he's like, when they neuralize, not Toni Collette, but who's the actress in that scene?
Siobhan Hogan, Edgar's wife.
I think so. Yes, the Edgar's wife. Yeah,
yeah.
She's so funny, and yeah. I'm sorry. Anyway, it is hard to imagine something without. Had to imagine this without Will Smith because it's so much of it is him, and none of it feels like sweaty or trying too hard.
Yeah. And his physical reactions to stuff too, because again, so much of this was digital at a time when not a lot was really like the full immersion digital stuff that was going on with characters. And sometimes it's puppets and sometimes it's just nothing there at all. And he can act the space of it. Like he can react properly to things that don't exist and give you a sense of his early scenes where he's just sort of taking stuff in. And the joke, obviously, is that he'll be neuralized and none of this will matter. So Jones is just opening up to him and telling him all kinds of, which is such a great scene because we are so off balance. We are in his shoes, like that, instantly identifying with Jay. Who the hell is this guy? What is going on? What kind of a world are we operating in? Because this is a blast.
I mean, the way the second he blows up Tony Shalhoub's head, Smith's gun is up, the humor's gone, and he's just straight cop, like drop the weapon, but like, and it's so straight and perfect. It's like the tone is so pitch perfect. It's like, you're right. He's reacting. He's not in a, what did you just say in English, please? It's like very grounded and real.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, again, everybody's straight down the line. We haven't even gotten to Vincent D'Onofrio, who not enough credit for that either, because that's like Rico Colantoni making up the Thermians in his Galaxy Quest audition and then saying just like, do that.
That's a great reference. I watching it last night, I was like, I think that now that we've seen D'Onofrio, like the kind of other roles that D'Onofrio went and got after this and has had, we have baselines to be able to definitively prove that his performance in this is absolutely incredible, right? Because he's getting to do stuff no one else ever let him do. And he's doing it so well. The physicality of having to play that there is that you are a human, like skin shell that is containing just a physically impossibly larger sized creature. And when he's trying to be casual and like lean on his hand in the van, and instead his like joints are just like popping and flailing wildly and in a way that is like, it reads immediately what's going on and feels so painful and uncomfortable. And it's like, and it's so good. And the makeup on him also is really great. The way they just gradually like have him decaying and rotting over the course of the movie. Oh, I love it so much.
Just sloughing
the whole
off.
idea of this makes me so happy that they put an alien in a human skin and just had him rot for most of the movie.
Yeah. D'Onofrio had said he was trying to do like George C. Scott and John Huston for the voice, but it doesn't come through. It's its own weird thing because his voice is so distinctive and it's like this gurgle. But
it's great because it sounds like something trying to do a human impression,
right,
which is what makes it so funny. And it's the moments where he comes off in a way, because there's the funniest thing in the world to me is someone who is straight up lying but clearly thinks they're selling it.
Right.
And there's an actor in Sketch, Callan Cox, who plays his character Bowman, who's the big scene stealer of our movie. He's a genius at that, in that everything he says in that movie feels like he is lying and making it up on the spot, but also that he thinks he's nailing it and totally selling it. And that creates this hilarious tension from him. There's so much of that from D'Onofrio in this. And it's so funny that they I'm usually not a fan of, so I've gone on record as not being I'm not a fan of the Gremlins movies, which is surprising to people who see Sketch.
It is surprising.
And I find them to be mean-spirited and cartoonish in a way that I don't vibe with. There's things about them that I adore. There's sequences that I love, but I have trouble when a movie makes a character cartoonishly unlikable so that we can later watch bad things happen to them. But I don't know the difference between the ones I don't like and the ones I do like, except that the ones I do like work. Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park works. D'Onofrio in this works, even though we don't see him except for a beat, but we hear him being an asshole to his wife and a despicable person. It doesn't have the same effect on me as other movies do, where they just go out of their way to make someone just grotesquely unlikable so that I can watch something bad to happen to him. I think it's performance. I think it's writing. I think it's all kinds of things, but I don't know. I'll give D'Onofrio the credit here because it's so freaking good.
Yeah. I wonder if it isn't also partially Hogan kind of missing him. Even though he's terrible to her. Oh yeah. She kind of loves him. And that's
true.
She's almost wrestling with that because there's some part of her that knows it's an Egger suit. Egger suit is so good. he knows he's not coming back. And yet she kind of is sad about that. And that maybe gives it a little more depth. But also because it's an alien that's killed and eaten him, we can root for bad things to happen to the alien.
100%. Oh yeah. I forgot about the line. Dude was this ugly before he was an alien. And it's just he doesn't even, he's actually a handsome guy in the picture, but it's that he's like fly fishing and got this, he looks like goofy as hell.
Yeah.
So good.
Hey, it's Norm interrupting my own show to bring you up to speed on Shiny Things, my newsletter about physical media, culture, and the odd streaming project. Last week, I caught up to Criterion's fantastic new editions of Carnal Knowledge and You Can Count on Me, as well as A24's The Legend of Ochi and Paramount's 4K disc of Small Soldiers. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io or find a link at the Semcast Blue Sky account. You like reading about movies? I still like writing about them. Come check it out.
And even the fact that we know almost nothing, one more character to throw in about Dr. Weaver, about Linda Fiorentino, she has no backstory. She's very dull. That's basically all we know about her. But Fiorentino has this inner life to her that makes her interesting. And she's even more deadpan than Kay as a character, which makes this other conflict play, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. No matter who Jay is trying to talk to, they give him nothing back. Like the running gag is he cannot form a connection with anyone.
You take the world's most charismatic person and you surround him with people who are immune to charisma. And that that's the secret, like to any great on-screen chemistry. And I mean, I don't know if chemistry is the right word, but just, it's always fun to watch people who, if they were dropped into my life, would just be the most popular, most successful human being, but instead you put them in situations where it's Parks and Recreation is one of my favorite shows of all time, and one of my favorite things about it is that like they're constantly making fun of Adam Scott's character for liking Star Wars and calling him a nerd, even though it's 2011 by that point. Star Wars is part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah And yet he doesn't, and he's just as committed to everything as they are, but no one will take him seriously for it. I mean, I'm thinking about something like, when was Hancock? 2008, 2009, the Will Smith superhero thing?
That had to have been like 9 or 10, I feel like. Yeah.
And it's a perfect example, weirdly enough, of how no one wanted to see Will Smith be too successful. Like they had to, he's got these incredible powers and all these abilities, but he has to be drunk and he has to be self-loathing and all these other things they had to heap on to make it sell. And it's still
fascinating.
Yeah, it still doesn't work. I saw that with a crowd at a preview screening and everybody wanted drunk Will Smith punching people and saving the world. And that is so not what that movie is about. And you could just feel this weird tension. And, how I Am Legend, he's the last man on earth. Everything is suffering. Everything is awful. And the original end, like they still won't let him die. Like the original ending was all this other stuff that the audience is going to want him to have a victory of some sort.
Do you think that's like a universally applicable thing? I'm trying to think about this, about like do we have a hard time accepting like superheroes who are, I mean, I guess not, because
not after Downey, right? Like after Iron Man.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. I was like, no, and after Downey, you have someone who is charisma and also is a superhero. And so, yeah, I don't know, but you're totally right though about Will Smith.
It's a really weird mechanic. Tom Cruise has the same dilemma. Like he can only be a villain if he is absolutely irredeemably a villain, and he hasn't done it for more than a decade because I think it makes him uncomfortable. And in the Mission Impossible films, like they can tease how this is the last one, but we're all pretty sure nothing's going to happen to him because he can't allow it.
The thing that makes me love him in the Mission Impossible movies is how much he will get the shit kicked out of him, and how many fights he's willing to lose in them, and how many times he's willing to it's the Indiana Jones or the Bruce Willis and Die Hard. It's like we love heroes that their world doesn't take them seriously, or is able to beat the shit out of them. So, because that's how we feel in our lives, right? And we want to see somebody treated like us and go through similar situations like us, have a similar dynamic subconsciously, and then see them prevail and win, because that's what we want for ourselves, right? I did it. I fixed it. I solved cinema. I figured out how it works.
No, I do agree. I mean, I think it was either Lucas or Spielberg who said the whole point of Indiana Jones is they wanted a cliffhanger where somebody falls off the cliff occasionally. And Die Hard, Terry Gilliam said that he cast Willis in 12 Monkeys because of the crying scene in Die Hard when he's picking the glass out of his feet and telling Powell to tell Holly that John said he was sorry. He said, I need you to be able to earn this. And he needed them to earn his victories. And I think that's the same thing you're talking about.
That's another perfect movie. I think Die Hard is a perfect movie. Die Hard and Toy Story are the two most perfect movies we've ever made. No, and there are plenty more. But I don't know why those two came to mind. But Die Hard, for sure. That's such a great, that scene in particular. But yeah, Will Smith, man, he's the coolest guy in the room. Nobody cares in this movie. And he doesn't even what I love about this movie is he doesn't even get to like defeat the bad guy in the end. He just distracts him while Tommy Lee Jones goes off screen, essentially, like goes inside and then blows him up. It shows that I don't need my characters to everything can be done with a light touch. Everything can be, I want things to be surprising. I just want my hero to be involved. I want my hero, and especially when there's a team, you want to see them working together and like, I don't need them to have some deep-seated emotional backstory. I don't need them, despite my movie. I don't believe that you need your protagonist to have some really heavy-handed emotional like backstory. I love that Kay's is painted with such a light touch, and it's mentioned like twice in the movie, and we don't even have to visually. Oh no, we do. It's from the front of the magazine, but it's so simple the way that we like set up. It's like 3 moves essentially, and it's so perfectly delicately done, and we don't need to like feel all this like well of like pain and suffering and striving and failing till finally succeeding. We can just watch 2 people solve a mystery and then work together to solve it, and then one person get the emotional catharsis they need at the end and make a joke and move on. I mean, I made it sound very easy, but like that's what I love about this movie is that it all feels so, it's no heavier than it needs to be, and it's no lighter than it needs to be.
Yeah, it looks effortless while you're watching it, which is amazing. And then to have the second one undo so much of the stuff with Kay is, I think, just a huge mistake. But again,
it's a mistake, but
they need him, right? Like there's no other way to make that movie.
They need him, and I still think one of the funniest jokes ever is Will Smith saying, and walking in with Tommy Lee Jones and saying, the deneuralizer, and then going for like 5 minutes explaining what it does, and that like, you know, long badass like Men in Black, you know, diatribe way, and then Tommy Lee Jones was cutting off like, cool, what's that? And then pause and the deneuralizer and restarting it again. It's my kind of joke.
It's a good bit. It is funny.
Yeah.
The casting is so perfect that it can't be replicated. So you need that. And then in the third one, they pull out Josh Brolin. It's like, look what we can do.
It's true. It's true. It's funny having now seen Brolin's performance. You watch, there's a few moments in this one where, like, I've been doing this thing. I've now hit the age where I've started to panic when I watch my favorite movies and trying to like, because I realize I might be closer in age to all these people now than I used to be. And so I'm looking up, like, Tommy Lee Jones was 50 when he made this. Like, that's only 9 years older than me.
Yeah, I'm older than he is now, which is so weird.
He looks 30 years older than he like, the 90s were a time I actually miss, where people all looked 30 years older than they actually were. Like, the entire cast of Seinfeld looked 30 years older than they actually were at that, you know, point. And that's not a criticism. That is actually a compliment. It's a criticism upon our current times. But there's moments where he has Brolin energy in this movie, like, yeah. And it's because we have the context now of, like, you know, comparing the two, but they're very similar.
Yeah, and also despite, you know, despite the gap and the fact that I think the whole point of it is that Smith's, like, Jay is supposed to be older than the Kay he meets in Men in Black 3. Smith can still project like the youthful confusion and energy that Jones never had, and therefore Brolin never has. So he always feels like the younger partner, no matter what. Even in 2, when he's going back to recruit him again, he's still deferential in a weird way because there's the mentorship going on, and it's such a great dynamic to have. And it comes right back again to this only works with Tommy Lee Jones in this role, but having Kay be a mentor who does no mentoring, like the whole point.
He really does not. He does. And honestly, it's weird, but that is the kind of mentor that has been the most effective in my life. Is I had a teacher. I didn't expect to talk about Mr. Madison on this podcast, but I had a teacher named Mark Madison when I was in high school, all 4 years of high school. He was our TV broadcasting teacher. And his first year at the school was my freshman year. And he was coming in and kind of redoing how that class and that program was run. And he said, we're running a cable access channel from the studio. You're all going to be assigned shows, like as in groups, and you're going to be responsible for creating the programming for the channel. And you're going to have episodes have very specific due dates, and they're going to air, and I'm going to watch them on TV and I'll grade them, but I'm not going to teach you how to use any of the equipment. Your first show is due this time, blah, blah, blah. Go learn this stuff. And that was the perfect environment for me to like, here's a system, here are the rules, get to work. And he came off very mean and grumpy and was very rather unspoken. And because of that, was very funny if you put him in anything. Very similarly, but I love that you pointed that out. I've never realized that he is a mentor that doesn't. It's the most frustrating kind of teacher to have, but it also can be like is the best kind of teacher to have, because it's up to you to learn things on your own and to discover how to do your job on your own. And it also is a great way to weed out, those who may not, be right for the job, whatever. But you're right. He absolutely does nothing.
He provides exposition a couple of times. He explains how one thing works, and ultimately that's it. He just keeps leaving Jay alone, which is so great, because again, it puts us on the back foot with him. The movie wants to know what he's going to do next, Kay, I mean, because he keeps running away and doing other stuff that is also really interesting. It speaks to this clearly long history of knowing everything. And like, it's weird that he's not the chief because he was somehow present for the very first thing. But again, we don't see all those bits and pieces, so it's irrelevant. Maybe he just likes being a field agent, but he's clearly aging out. And all those things are set up so beautifully without a single line of dialogue that that becomes so clear on repeat viewings that Kay is planning his own retirement. Oh,
and the scene where we catch him spying on the woman that he goes on that he goes on to be with, who I don't think has a name, right? We don't ever know her name.
I don't think so.
At least not in the first one. Even then, like, Jay catches him, and Jones has one line the rest of that scene. It's just Jay sitting, because what's also great about that is that I am often the Jay character. If you put me with someone who doesn't talk very much, I need to fill the space.
Yeah,
and I uncomfortably fill the space. So it's very relatable that he's sitting there and just like, he's guessing at what Kay's situation is. And Kay's not even confirming it verbally or anything. He just has one line, and it's so perfect, and it's delivered so well. And the coverage of it too. As a kid, I noticed it, and I still think of this scene all the time. And that it's this oneer moving from one side of the desk to the other, as we're just kind of orbiting, or like we're tracking left to right, coming around as Jay is blabbering, and he says, "Well, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." And boom, Kay engages. Eye contact says, "Try it," and that's it. And it's so good. It's such a great delivery, and it's like that's all the man ever tells us about his past. And I feel like that would be so hard to make that happen now in a studio movie. I feel like there would be flashbacks. There would be like at least more ADR, so much ADR describing and explaining things. I was watching this and I feel like when they're walking down the hallway and he's he's giving him the exposition dump with the photographs. Will Smith is the great line. He's like, "Oh, you brought that tall man some flowers," and anytime they're not on him, they're on the picture, and I'm wondering, is that a line of ADR? Is that a solve for people not realizing that that's Tommy Lee Jones? If so, it's the right kind of solve because it feels like a joke more than anything, and like it has its own value other than exposition, but even then it's still so underexplained in such a beautiful way, and it makes that relationship and it makes that mystery even more beautiful because we get to fill in the blanks, right, with the best version.
Yeah. I mean, this is a film that runs 97 minutes, doesn't have an ounce of fat on it, and it trusts the audience to keep up in a way that so many other films just didn't. I mean, I love Titanic. I think it's a great piece of mass market entertainment and a really just beautifully made movie, and it is James Cameron doing the thing that only he can do, which is, love story that turns into an action movie and doesn't lose either thread.
Yeah.
But it's 3.25 hours long, and it's genius the way he does it, because by showing us that wireframe model at the beginning of how the Titanic will sink, we always know that Jack and Rose are in the wrong place at every given moment in the second half of the film. But he needs to lay that groundwork, and that is for an historical reality that everybody could have known going in potentially, right? And this is like, we have an entire universe that we are just not going to tell you anything about, but we are going to put stuff everywhere that makes sense. So if you're paying attention, you can keep up and maybe even be ahead of a couple of jokes. And that, you're right, that does not happen anymore.
Well, it's also, what's wonderful about it is and what helps it is that it's a premise that's based on things hiding in plain sight in society. And so it gives you very, very specific examples and use cases of like where, this person that looks like a cab driver or this person looks like a pawn shop owner, like is actually an alien. And here they are being an alien, and being, seemingly human, but what they look like as aliens as well. We subconsciously then watch the movie and we fill out the world. Like, we know that anybody in the movie could be an alien. We're not thinking about that. We're not watching it wondering who's going to be an alien, who's not, but it makes the world feel, it's almost like invisible set dressing. It's just like, it's a movie where there's aliens in the real world and we can just show footage of the real world now that we've contextualized it. And it feels like it's got this extra layer on it because of that. And it smartly only shows you the parts that are really important. And it doesn't repeat a joke. Like, it doesn't, the Frank the Pug is such a brilliant turn because he's got to go see somebody. He's got to get some information. We've already seen him go to a human being, someone who looks like a human, and they turn out to be an alien.
Mm-hmm.
We've already done the joke of it being, the kind of type of person you expect to be an alien, so like, we're not going to make a joke that like, oh, go see a cab driver. Oh, it's funny because cab drivers are aliens. It's like, we instead, it wisely makes the joke, well, what if we showed you a human that looks like they absolutely should be an alien? But then it turns out to be the dog right next to it. Like, yeah. That's great. That's the twist. Like, that's how you do it. And that's also why it's real hard to make sequels to movies like this, because a movie like this is so good because it fulfills almost all of the promises that the premise bring in the movie. And then you have to, in a sequel, you have to find out how to either expand that premise in a way that's just as promising, or you have to keep milking that premise that as it was for what it's worth. And it's really difficult to do, unless you just reboot it all later, 20 years later, like Jurassic did, then you get one more chance to make a pretty thrilling and fun version of it. And then it's hard again. And you have to wait several decades to redo it again.
Yeah, it's a fascinating challenge. I mean, there's a sixth Final Destination movie, and those films are the same movie, which is somehow not detrimental to that concept, which is so weird.
I know. It's so true.
I just watched it last night, and Bloodlines, it's been 14 or 15 years, I think, maybe even longer since the last one. And the directors they're Canadians. They're guys from Vancouver who made a movie called Freaks a few years back, where they just
I don't know them. I have mutual friends, and I remember I forget his name, but he was on that Spielberg On the Lot show back in the day.
Oh,
and I remember him from that. If I'm making that right connection, I may be wrong, but that's anyway. Yes, I hear them. I have not gotten to watch it yet because I've been stupidly busy, but I hear it's just spectacularly fun, and it's like very fun. shockingly good.
Yeah, they're really smart about how to deploy effects. They're, like, it's full of them. Obviously, it has to be because you're killing actors. But there are moments. There's one that is like there's the 4K disc has a featurette about how they shot the deaths for a lot of them at this time, because they said right off the top, it's like the whole point of these movies is that you want everybody dies, you know it, you want to see how. And so you're playing a game of risk and reward with the audience as much as with the script, and involving them in it. And somehow, I think it's the only, because even the Friday the 13th films, which are the same movie over and over and over again, are diminishing returns to the point where they had to throw the premise out and do like the space one and the demon one and all the other stuff. But with the Final Destination films, there's always a cohort, there's always a group. The thing that it does differently this time is that it's an entire family. And that you now have a generation of actors, because the first one came out 25 years ago, which is how I get back around to the Men in Black thing of it all. There's been enough time between the original and now that you have a generation of actors who've grown up watching them, and they are so excited that they give different performances than the first generation would have done.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, I mean, it sort of happens with MIB International when you just recast the whole thing, you reboot it, you set it in Europe, and you see what happens. But I think the energy of the film is so different because Tessa Thompson is basically playing a fan who gets to be a Men in Black, or a woman in black, or an MIB. And that changes the energy and makes it interesting. And it's the Lego sequel thing, right? Where you assume the audience is in on the whole thing from the beginning. Whereas the first film knows you're not and has more fun with it that way, which is such an interesting way. And as you say, you're subliminally, subconsciously being walked through this film. But you watch it over and over again, and there's always another thing in there because they layered so much of it that way. Like it was so complex to make it look easy. And I asked Ed about it briefly when we talked, and he just said he just kept writing. Like they just kept finding new things, like to the point where the climax was not in the original script. And not only was it not in the original script, they were shooting for 5 months before they figured out that the one they had wasn't working. And it was supposed to be just a debate between Jay and the bug.
Boo! I did not know that. How in the world was that ever a thing?
I think the point of it was that Jay was supposed to be buying time so Kay could do something, which sort of is reversed. Like the basic premise of it is the same thing. Jay is stalling. Yeah. He doesn't know it though, which is why it's fun. But they wanted more. They realized they needed action. So they came up with the ending that we see now, and it required them completely reconfiguring the bug design because it had to be CG. So it gave them more, like it wasn't going to be that big originally.
I didn't know that. And there was like animatronics like made for it, weren't there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to break through Edgar's body, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff, but it was a slower process. And then it just like, no, we're gearing up. He has to swallow a person. And so they came up with that. But they basically figured it out in I think the spring of 1997 on the fly, having no idea if it would work or not. And
what, was the World's Fair involved, Phil? Was it still set there?
The location, I think, was the same because the ships were always there.
The saucer crash through the globe was still. Oh yeah, that was still because that was in the teaser that aired like a year or like 6 months prior.
Yeah, they were still shooting when that came out.
One of the most exciting teasers I'd ever seen in my life when that came out. I'm a sucker for trailer. Not a sucker. I'm very passionate about trailers and teasers and like how you unveil your movie and how you brand your movie and in the way you present it through a trailer and through the storytelling of a trailer and the typography and music, all that. This is like where we get too nerdy for any podcast, even any podcast audience. But I remember there were so many visuals in that Men in Black teaser that I had never seen before. It's just like this thing that looks like a spaceship crashing through. I was not familiar with the World's Fair, so it looked like it's crashing through what looks like the Universal Studios globe. I didn't know what I was looking at, and then it lands and these two guys don't move and it's just keeps heading toward them. And then you get these like their cast cards where their names are very small, something that I miss a lot when text used to be really small because it was going on a big screen and it would make it feel bigger. You get this tiny little names, and then it cuts, Tommy Lee Jones, and it cuts to Will Smith, and they get their line, and then you just get them like gearing up with this Danny Elfman music kicking in, these close-ups and inserts of them like cocking guns and tying shoes and stuff, and then kicking the camera to kick this animated door open, and then it's still their silhouettes pulling back from a genius logo that's MIB with the two of them standing there with this Danny Elfman track that I obsessed about for longer than anybody ever should obsess about anything. I was like, when the soundtrack, and this happened all the time for me as a kid, the soundtrack for the movie would come out and the music that was in the trailer for the movie was not on the soundtrack. And I would grow up to later learn that they were reusing music often from, in that time, they're reusing music from other movies. Nowadays, it's often custom made or it's stock or it's custom made by a stock, place. But at the time, in the advent of the internet, I could start to find out where the music was from. Like, I think Lost World was that same summer, and I was able to figure out that was the backdraft score that was in that trailer. But no one was asking what was the music in the Men in Black score. And if they were, they're like, oh, it's the score from the movie. Like, no, it's not. This is a specific bum 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 thing that is not in the Men in Black score. And it wasn't until about a year ago, I was talking to my friend Daniel Hashimoto, and he was like, I was telling him about this, and he was like, have you ever Shazammed it? And I was like, no, because I haven't thought about this in like 20 years. And that was the day I found out that it's Elliot Goldenthal's score from Demolition Man. It's one track from Demolition Man. And the minute I found that, it was like I was in 7th grade again. It was like, oh my God, I found the track finally. This is incredible. So if anyone out there shared my pain, my anguish, I doubt your listeners give a shit about anything I just said.
No, you'd be surprised. This is a much more universal experience than you think, because we all carry this stuff with us. Like, we're all just quietly going insane when we can't figure something out or obsessing over things. Yeah, I totally get it. And this is the weirdest place to pivot, but I do want to get to sketch. And
before we do,
yeah, what do we got?
I forgot I had these. I should have brought these on at the beginning. I know this is an audio podcast, but I forgot that I have my J and K action figures
covered in slime.
K is covered in slime, and then I've got Mikey, who I believe if I do, what do I have to do to Mikey? I forgot. He blows up somehow. I don't remember how. We're gonna find out.
Well, don't risk breaking it
at some point. Oh, it moves the head. Anyway, he blows up in some way, and I don't remember how to do it. But anyway, that's I forgot I had these up on the shelf.
It's great. I think I can post a screen grab. People will want to see this. But I did want to ask about Sketch, which has a similar way of suggesting a much, much larger world without ever explaining anything about the way it works. The mystery of the pond and all the other stuff that's going on is rooted in, and we talked about this at TIFF last year, it's rooted in psychology and it's rooted in personal stories, but those stories this is the thing that your movie understands that very few others seem to. They're so painful that people don't want to talk about them. So you get close to exposition over and over again. And then you're dealing with people who've all shared the same trauma and they can't talk about it to each other. Like, that's the whole point of the film, is that a father can't talk to his children about what hurt them all the most. But it's just so artfully handled in that we understand where everybody is coming from after the first 10 minutes. And then you just keep building on it until you get to that catharsis, which, again, I watched you watch it with your cast and an audience, and it hit so well. I cannot tell people
thank you.
How powerful that was to see it play with a crowd. How did you get there? And is Men in Black something you relied on for a way to tell a story without telling people things?
Not consciously, but rewatching it last night. Well, there were a couple things I consciously knew about that I was referencing Men in Black. One, I grew up on Nickelodeon. Slime was a prominent fixture in my childhood. I love an exploding alien. I love colorful, like, debris or goo, like, on characters. And so my movie has a lot of that, where characters get a lot of colorful substance, like, on them from debris from creatures, and then walk around covered in it. There's a moment, I don't want to give it away, but the marketing so far has actually given it away a little bit, but there's a character that holds a weapon in a specific way that I had to pull up the clip from Men in Black to show him, like, because he was trying to hold it, up here, like, And I was like, no, you got to hold at the hip. You got to hold at the hip and aim it upward like this. And two of my friends noticed it when they first watched the movie. They were like, I love that he's holding it like Jay from Men in Black. And I was like, yes, that's exactly the reference. But, watching it last night, I realized, oh, this movie also does a thing that I forgot it. I didn't forget about this, but I just failed to make the connection. I love the, not a trope or really an archetype, but like the movies where you'll have the main villain who is kind of in the background of the story throughout the most of the movie until around the third act. Mm-hmm. And they are in some way disguised as a human. Ours doesn't go as far as I'd originally envisioned in that way, but they are for most of the movie, they are somewhat disguised as a kind of humanoid shape. But like I was constantly thinking about Judge Doom and, T-1000 or, Terminator in some way. But Edgar is such a like prime example of that, of just, so all that to say, yes, there were conscious things that were direct references to Men in Black and also just subconscious things. And another part of it is also just comedy. Like, Sketch is a very emotional film and it has some scary-ish parts, but it has such a comedy engine that really is what's moving the movie more than anything, I think. And as I said, multiple times here today, then discovered kind of last night, like, oh, this movie is very responsible for at least planting that seed for me of like, this is how you can fuel a movie and do really weird and wild things and anchor the audience into it. Because this, Men in Black would have been a drag had it been. There is arguably a cool. I'm sure there's a cool version of this movie that is like dead serious, but I actually don't think that. And I don't want to call it examples of movies that, because I don't like to shit on other movies, but there are some examples that immediately come to mind. But like, I think anything, no matter how dark it goes or how dramatic it is, I think that comedy has more power than it's more than just laughs. You're buying an audience's your suspension of disbelief. Not even by making fun of yourself, but by literally just having a sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like, I think you are buying so much of the audience's commitment.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you can't, I can't remember who said it, but it's a constant thing, right? There is no comedy without drama and there's no drama without comedy. The human experience is that sometimes you laugh at stuff.
Oh, who said that? I want to know who said that because so I can steal it and use
it's a good
because
one.
I have a bunch of press left to do for Sketch, and that's absolutely something I'm going to say.
Yeah, feel free. Just say somebody told you, somebody said it. I mean, I am somebody. I did just say it, but I'm definitely quoting someone else.
With Norm Wilner said
yeah,
it.
It's not original to me. It's the thing that differentiates Spielberg's movies from other films that followed and tried to do his thing is that Jaws is funny, right? He allows character comedy to emerge in situations where people would need to laugh. Like they didn't think you're going to need a bigger boat would be a huge laugh line, but they knew that was something that Brody would say and that no one else would, because it demonstrates just how little he understands the situation he's in, but it also shows us that he has seen this shark and he's right? It's an audience identifier. But think about, Alien versus Aliens and how gallows humor is so essential to keeping that film as an action movie. And in Alien, all the jokes fall flat because it's a horror film. They're in there and they're there for the audience to see that like they're trying to laugh past a graveyard, but they're in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is missing from the ones that try and don't quite get there, because they don't acknowledge that ultimately, like Men in Black especially, it's an adventure movie more than anything else. It's it's a kid coming into a larger world and all the other stuff that we recognize that like those beats are in the human DNA.
Yeah.
But he's self-aware, so he gets to have fun, and then the movie gets to have more fun because even though he's making jokes to get through it, the movie is sort of laughing at his naivete. And that's how Tommy Lee Jones gets to be funny without ever actually cracking a single real joke.
Yeah.
Like he's just responding in a way that has the cadence of being serious, but we know he's fucking with him. Like that whole, what is it? Stop calling me kid. And he says, okay, Slick. He just immediately changes to another nickname.
That's why the movie is so funny, is because it's not trying to be. It is like, it is, the performances are grounded in the weird reality of the movie. The movie establishes a reality and then everybody grounds themselves in it. And there are jokes for sure, but they feel organic to the situation and moment. And nobody's grinning while they're talking about any of the stuff that's going on. And also Rip Torn gets to say, may I ask why you felt little Tiffany deserved to die? And that's also why the movie is brilliant.
Yeah, that is a great line. Sketch has the same kind of energy in its first 5 minutes with that scene with the guidance counselor, where right away we are told what kind of movie this is going to be and how to handle the levels of absurdity, comedy, trauma before you introduce a single genre element.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I'm wildly insecure about that opening, because it's so contained and small and so it's very dialogue heavy, and it's quiet. It's a quiet opening. Mm-hmm. I say I'm insecure about it because I love quiet openings. I mean, it's no surprise. It's no secret that I grew up on the altar of Spielberg and Zemeckis, but Spielberg especially, he'll go musicless for his first acts, and he'll do these long expositional scenes that are just ambient room sound and dialogue, and they feel real because of that. And they earn the music later, right? And what an interesting side effect of that opening of Sketch, though, what's wonderful is hearing like what you just said and seeing, audiences watch this and buy into it. Like, a thing that I've realized that was somewhat intentional but is really, really relieving to see kind of works is that we can never surprise audiences in the objective societal way that Jurassic Park did, for example, of like, holy shit, dinosaurs. Like, we're never going to go, holy shit, how did they do that ever again? But what we can do is holy shit, how did they do that? And by that, I mean, you can set an audience's expectation within the confinements of your own movie. You can tell them, whether you're right or not, you can tell them a budget that you're working with in the opening of the movie. You can have them install their ceiling for what you think you're capable of in the beginning of the movie, and then break that ceiling. It may not be the ceiling of cinema, but it's the ceiling of your movie that you gave the audience, the tools to build. And my metaphor is like doubling up on itself and falling apart. But the idea of, we're going to make a big 4-quadrant monster movie, that feels like a big summer tentpole movie, but we need to lay the groundwork in the beginning and make you think it's this small indie movie with very limited money and resources. Because, by the way, we are a small indie movie with limited budget and resources, but we somehow escalate the movie to where it goes. So it's wonderful to hear you say that it accomplishes everything that we wanted it to at the beginning. Because, and like I've told you, and I've said in countless press things I've done about the movie, that prologue is almost word for word, like directly from something that happened to my sister when we were kids, and what inspired the themes of this movie and the character arc of Amber. So yeah, it's nice to hear it works. It's always good to hear that it works.
My thanks to Seth Worley, whose wonderful first feature Sketch opens across North America tomorrow, Wednesday, August 6th. Go see it. You'll laugh, you'll cry, it'll be a whole thing. You can find Seth on Instagram at @TheSethWorley, all one word, and you can find Men in Black on 4K Blu-ray and DVD from Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. It's also streaming on Starz in the US and Canada, and on Hollywood Suite in Canada too, and available to rent or buy on various VOD services across North America. You can find me on Blue Sky at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/Semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 41 of which aren't currently available anywhere else. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song's by The Last Year. If you like it, or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps, it truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, get all the boosters. I'll see you next week.